Hello everybody, Demon Red Mist here, and I'm sounding a little bit quiet on my microphone. Just bear with me a second. I might be sounding fine to you lot, but it's not sounding right to me. See if that's a bit better. I can hear myself now. Okay, so DGT League practice tips for Mount Panorama, otherwise known as Bathurst. Now don't worry, my TV hasn't fucked up and showing odd colours. It's middle of the day here in Australia, so the road is going to look a bit red. Okay, Mount Panorama. It's a bit of a tough one for setting your car up because you've got very long straights here. So for example, a setup you may have used at Monza could be tempting to use here, but camber angle, for example, my car setup for Monza doesn't work here because the camber angles are wrong. Now I probably should have just used that setup but adjusted the camber angles, but what I've basically done is I've kept the gear ratio from Monza but pretty much defaulted the suspension settings except for the ride height, and the camber angle I have adjusted a bit. But this isn't a completed setup by any means. I have literally only done one timed lap. I just did it to get a little bit of a feeler of the circuit and pick out, have a look at a few points for myself for the video. So I'm not up to speed yet. However, the tips that I'm going to give in this video should help you get up to speed quicker. Hopefully one of the things that people have noticed from these videos that I've been doing is, for example, I'm not exactly showing how to go, how to be the fastest in the world. I'm showing how to make sure you always stay on the track while being able to put in decent lap times. Improvements on that is a personal thing to yourself, relevant setups as to whether you can brake a tiny bit later or brake a bit earlier or don't brake as much. So lap time is going to come yourself. Now this is a track that I can imagine a lot of people do struggle with, especially as we look at the track map. There's the squiggly section which is up on the top of the mountain, but I must admit I have a beautiful rhythm that I use through that section that I'm going to show you all about, and you can use it in any car. So the rhythm that I'm going to show at the top of the mountain you can use in any car. Some cars do not like this track at all because there's one particular corner in the downhill section we're looking at now where if a car's suspension is not quite right, it will just spin in that corner every single time, and the more cautious you try and be, the more it will spin. However, this Toyota loves the mountain. Alright, so if your car is spinning on the mountain section, it's because something's either A, wrong with your setup, or B, you're driving it wrong. Okay, couple of points that I want you to keep an eye out on this particular video. One of them is try and keep an eye and keep an ear as to how smooth I try and be with my upshifts and downshifts, and by that I mean I'm not thrashing limiters and I'm not going up a gear, down a gear, down a gear, up a gear, mid corner, down a gear, and all that kind of stuff. Everything is done. Everything is, it's preparing the car for the corner, go, 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 and hopefully it should all be smooth and calm, and that's where speed can come from. Secondly, I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. But yeah, right. I'm thinking about doing this video slightly differently. On the previous videos, what I've done is I've come out of the pits and I've shown you corner by corner what you should do or what you can do to make this track a hell of a lot nicer for you. What I'm going to do though with this track, because it's a bit of a rarer circuit, I'm actually going to do an outlap and drive a faster lap, a timed lap, so that anyone that wants to just have a look at the video and go, oh okay, that's how he's going around the circuit without all the bump, can look at it straight away. I will then go corner by corner by corner, as per the previous videos, and then I will do one additional flying lap to sort of re-emphasize what it is that I've been mentioning to you. Okay, now like I said, I have only done one timed lap. The setup is not ideal, but even though the setup is not ideal, the braking points are the same, the turning points are going to be the same, the gears that I'm going through the corners are going to be the same. So yeah, don't worry too much about a lap time that you see. Focus on where I mention as being braking points. Now this first flying lap that I do, I might not talk over it so that you can hear the engine and what I'm doing with the downshifts, and you can have a look at the braking meter and stuff like that, so you can see how much I'm braking and things like that. So yeah, I won't talk too much over the first flying lap, unless I feel like I want to. Now as I am driving round on my out lap here, I am still trying to stay to the racing line, and I'm doing my gear changes. So even though I'm at a different speed to what I would be racing at, I'm doing the gear changes in the places, like for if I'm having to go down gears for corners, I'm trying to do that at the same points and apply the brakes at the same points. I'm just not applying it very much at all because I'm going slower. And it's a very handy tool, this, by the way, for your out laps. Don't go flat out, you're just going to hurt your tyres. But focus on racing lines, braking points, doing your downshifts, your upshifts. Unless obviously someone is on a hot lap behind you, then get out of the way. I must admit, I do love this circuit. I've been driving around this track for, oh god, a long time, but not actually raced around it a lot. But I do really like this track. Okay, be careful of the curb, apex curb at the last corner and turn one. They're big and nasty, and you don't really want to touch them. Okay, 100 meters, first braking point. Second gear, close to the curb, preferably don't touch it. If you do, your car will wobble. You'll be slightly slower on the exit. Keep it in as straight a line as possible here, working your way over to the left. Braking about 125 meters, and I've decided I am going to talk. Yeah, so braking about 125 meters. Down to third gear, and then floor it. No hint of going off. This is an interesting corner. I'm going to shut up here. Got it a bit messy. Now keep an eye out for the rhythm. So basically what I'm trying to do through the downhill mountain bit is, rather than going down loads of gears early or loads of gears late, I'm going down a gear a corner, and I'm letting the car slow itself down all the way around. Brake at the 150 here and brake hard. Okay, I'm going to go for one more faster laps. I wasn't happy with how I showed the mountain then. Listen to the throttle here. Realised it's not the 150 I'm braking for there. It's about the 200, but I'll go through that in more detail in a moment. Okay, so there's that lap was much better. Through the whole mountain section was much better. Okay, let's go through this then corner by corner. So turn 1 at Bathurst at the start of the race, guys, be very careful here, because it is such a short run to turn 1 that the cars at the back of the grid will get to a higher speed than the cars at the front of the grid. You've got more tarmac to cover. To put that really into perspective, okay, first is going to be starting here. So let's actually try it, shall we? Let's see what speed I get to. So at 100, 80 mile an hour. It didn't want to spin round. Right, now let's go to where the back of the grid will be. So yeah, it was 80 mile an hour by the 100 metre marker board. So that's 15's on the left of me and this is 16. Okay, right, so let's see what... Oh, hang on. Sorry about that, XMB came on. Yeah, so let's see what speed we get to by the 100 metre marker board. 97, so you're going 20 mile an hour faster. Okay, so if you are further down the grid, you are going to have to slow down earlier for turn 1 at the start of the race. If you don't, you're going to be sending people up towards the top of that crane. Okay, right then, turn 1 as a normal racing situation. Now, one of the things that people may have found from my tips videos is that I may, for example, say brake at the 100 metre marker board for turn 1 here, and people will go, yeah, but I can brake later than that and get around the corner no problem. You can, but you're taking more out your tyres and you're going slower around the corner. Whereas if you brake at the 100, you won't take as much out your tyres and you'll go faster around the corner. So it's not always about how late can you brake, it's about when can you brake and reduce your speed the least amount and get round the corner. That's the key. And in a race situation, you add on without punishing your tyres. So very simple, 100 metre marker board, and that will work if you are on the left hand side of the road or the right hand side of the road, because there is a little margin for error. If you are on the left though, you may just have to brake a little bit more than if you are on the right hand side. So dead easy, brake at the 100 metre marker board, get it slowed down. On my gear ratio, this is a second gear corner, and you don't really want to be turning in too soon for this corner, because if you do, you're going to end up in the gravel on the right hand side. So try and wait until you've gone past this lamppost on the right before you start turning in. And as I mentioned, you don't really want to touch this apex curb because it is quite big. If you can just hug this white line, you will have a much better balanced traction on the exit of the corner, just giving you all acceleration. If you are finding yourself over on the right hand side of the curb that is ahead of us on the right hand side of the track, then you are either A, coming into this corner too quick, braking too late, or B, you are turning in too soon, making the corner much more tight and resulting in you running wide. The way I'm telling you to do it, you should never end up beyond that curb on the right hand side of you, even if you have a car on the left of you in this position I am in now. Okay, so you can go side by side through this corner and be on the right and still brake at the point that I mentioned. Okay, so yeah, second gear corner, kiss the curb but don't ride it. That sounds like a dodgy porno. And let the car run out to the right hand side, preferably going up to the curb but not over it. Very simple corner, but it is a corner a lot of people can struggle with, mainly just because they attack it way too hard by being way too late on the brakes. Okay, heading up to the first part of the interesting section of this track. Very fast straight here, slipstream's going to be crucial, definite overtaking place, but if you're going to go up the inside, make sure you are not going to run wide. Okay, I am braking around about 125 metres for this corner. We're going considerably faster than at turn 1, so around about 125 metres we'll start braking. We're going to try and get the car slowed down to preferably third gear. Keep the car in a nice straight line as you do so, and don't turn in until we're getting up to this grass on the left here. If you can get to this point and then start turning in third gear, you can get on the accelerator much sooner and power all the way around this corner. If you're visiting King G on the left of me way too often and going straight on at this corner, then you're braking too late. Also, make sure you don't downshift too quickly, because if you do, it will push your car on. The way that I'm telling you to, you can take this corner, you should never end up in hitting that wall over there. It is as simple as that. You brake at 125, you don't hit the barrier, you can get around the corner every single time. Okay, so as I mentioned, power on nice and early, heading up the hill. Be careful of the car bottoming out on this exit curb though, it's a big one. So you may find if you're running a lower ride height than I am, you will have problems there. Okay, short straight into a double left hand corner, sort of not quite 90 degrees and then a hairpin. Now in this car, depending on setup, some people may be able, to go flat out through this left hand kink and then bang the brakes on. That will be setup dependent. I haven't tried it on the setup I'm running at the moment, just because I don't think it can do it. I might try it on the next lap. Okay, but you want to approach from the right hand side, and this is a fast corner. So guys, if you are braking hard for this corner, don't. On the laps I just showed you, I may have dabbed the brakes gently, but it is literally only a split second dab. You can approach this corner, lift off and go round the corner and be back on the throttle if need be. You do not need to brake heavy for this corner at all. Okay, so approach from the right hand side of the track, and you don't have to steer too much to get around this left-hander, but the aim is to be able to try and get your car kind of in a straightish line. So given the position I'm in now, we can see where the marshal's waving that green flag up there, the wall on the left, well basically like where he's aiming the flag when it's at its most left, the corner is already there. So if we sort of focus from the bonnet of my car to that marshal, we haven't quite got a straight line, but that's why we do the lift, or I'm doing a lift through this left-hander. It's so that I can scrub a little bit of speed off so that when I do hit the brakes on this slight curve, it's not going to hurt me. Whereas if I go flat out through this corner, there's a chance I might hit the wall on the right, or when I do hit the brakes, I'm going to be all out of shape. So we want to try and scrub a little bit of speed off if we can, but then let the car run out to the right hand side, and then if we can, get yourself into this kind of position where now the marshal is almost straight ahead of us. So the braking zone is now pretty much a short straight and not a curve. Okay, so we hit the brakes, we hit them hard to get the car down to second gear. You don't really need first gear here unless you have a very long gear ratio. Don't turn in too soon for this corner. If you do, you'll hit the wall. But also don't turn too sharply for this corner. If you apply too much steering lock, you will spin. Okay, so you want to approach it from the right hand side. Before you get to the flag waving marshal, turn it in, and you want to try and late apex this corner. So get up close to the wall, towards the exit of the corner, not the entry of the corner. The camber of the corner will help you around this way as well. We can then let the car run out towards the right hand side, hopefully with no risk of spinning the car. Okay, we have a flat out kink. If you're on the left hand side here though, be careful, you may have to do a little lift if you're side by side with someone, but if you're on your own, flat out kink, and let the car get over to the left hand side of the track. This right hand corner on a brand new set of tyres could be flat out. Slightly wear, have a slight bit of wear on your tyres, you're probably going to have to lift a little bit through this corner, but again, it is only a split second lift before you turn in, or as you turn in. Because if you stay flat out, turn in, and the car's not making the corner, you lift, you're now having to save the car. Whereas if you lift as you turn in, the car can grip and it will turn for you. Okay? Or if you lift before you turn, the same process. But ideally, brand new tyres, flat out. But it only works if you're over to the left hand side, almost rubbing the wall. And again, don't turn in too soon. If you turn in too soon for this corner, you will hit the wall on the exit. Now, there isn't really much of a point I can pick out as turning at this point, other than maybe the curb on the right of us there, as that is about to go out the screen or getting close to go out the screen, we can start turning in. And again, try and apex the corner under the bridge, not, and given the curvature of the corner, sorry paintwork, you could very easily turn in too soon and find yourself apexing here. If you do, you're going to be finding that Fujitsu sign on the left ahead of us. So apex later under the sign. Right? If you do find yourself in this position, you're going to have to slow down a bit. So yeah, try and turn in a bit later and apex under the sign. If you can take this flat out, brilliant. If you can't, don't worry, because it means you will be hopefully looking after your tyres a little bit, but don't be surprised if you get a nudge now and again. Okay, so it's a very simple corner really. Now we're into the left-handers, and when I was on my previous lap, as I got to around about this point, I said listen to the throttle. Now, the throttle application I am using at the moment over this section of the mountain is definitely relevant to the setup I'm running at the moment. However, even if my setup gets better, I'm probably going to drive it exactly the same way just to look after the tyres a little bit, because this track can be a tyre killer. It's extremely hot and there's a few corners that like killing tyres. Okay, this left-hander is absolutely flat out, but as I was getting to the top of this hill, or just before the hill goes down, as we got to around about this point, I did the minutest of lift-offs. And the reason for that is the same reason I mentioned about the right-hander a moment ago. By lifting off a tiny bit, it allows the front end to grip that little bit more, which then means I can push through the corner. And I did the same thing for the next left-hander, did a little lift before I turned in, and then I could push through the corner. By doing that, I've got no risk of going off, but I can push everything to the limits. Okay, so do a little lift off before the marshal's post, just to balance the car and get it turned in. Let the car then run over towards the wall on the right, another little lift, so that you can then get it turned in, and as soon as you turn in, absolutely flat out, and then let the car run over to the wall. If these section of corners that I'm just going through now, you are hitting the barriers, try and do what I am saying here. It can be a game changer. Okay, and now we're coming up to what is a blind left-hand corner. Now for this one, given the speed that I was going to, I had to change up to 5th gear, but that's not a problem, because then I'm able to do a little lift, do a downshift to 4th, give my front end the grip, and then power all the way through the corner. Now this corner is a bit of a tricky little bitch. Do not turn in too soon. Let your car head over towards the super cheap auto sign and the marshal's post, but before you get to the marshal's post, start turning in, and again try and late apex towards the end of the curb. It opens up this corner beautifully. So if you've been finding yourself all over the gravel on there, this should hopefully help you, and I will show again what I mean once we get to the end of the lap. Okay, now we're into the downhill section, a part of the track that many people are going to absolutely hate. Personally, I think it's one of the best sections of corners in the world. Easily. Now, I said that I have a rhythm through here, and I do, and hopefully you were able to see that on the previous laps. And it all starts here. If I go any further, well, basically, where my car is now, up to that Audi sign, you have to be on the brakes before then. Because think of it like this. The more braking you do at this point, the less braking you have to do down the hill through the wiggly section. And given the multiple changes of direction, the last thing you want to be doing is having to be hard on the brakes down that section. So if you actually slow down a little bit more here, it means you can just allow the car to slow down the hill, and you can control it with timed dabs of the brake if you need to. Okay, let the chopper go past. Nothing to see here, mate. Fuck off. It must be Brundle coming to check me out. Meow, meow. Okay, so as we approach the sign, we're going to apply the brakes, but not hard. It's just light enough to take the edge off, right? And then this is where it's all about going down a gear for the corner. So before the corner, we go down 1 gear. In the change of direction, we go down 1 gear. We let the car slow down round the left-hander, we go down 1 gear. Now we just let the car roll around the right-hander, and preferably at this point we're either in 3rd gear and we can cope with this corner, or you may have to drop it down to 2nd, but chances are you're going to be in 2nd already if you've come to the top of the hill in 5th gear. Someone's wolf whistling me. Cheeky bastards. I know I've got moves, but that's taking the piss. Fucking Australians, they're all fucking alcoholic. So yes, hopefully at this point we should now be in 2nd gear and not having to touch the brakes anymore. Definitely not having to touch the brakes. We can hug this inside line nicely, we can let the car run over to the wall, and we can just power down the hill. It is a beautiful section of corners when you take it in that rhythm, because instead of it being oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, it's okay, just yeah, okay, this is cool, yeah, oh no, I like that, oh I've gone faster, cool, wicked. And then taking in that rhythm, like I say, that rhythm will work in every single car. It's just some cars cannot handle the last part of this section. The left-hand corner into the right-hander. There are many cars whose suspension cannot handle this level of gradient and change of direction. So there are a few cars, one of the Honda NSXs for example, you get it into this point, it'll spin on you. The F1 car will spin on you. This car shouldn't. Okay, so now we're on the power, heading down the hill, and now I'm going to give you another secret tip, right? You can, if you want, go flat out round this right-hander and then bang the brakes on. It tends to get a little bit squiggly though. But you could do it a better way, which I think is a better way, which is on approach to this corner, you apply the brakes gently, just about here before the sign, to scrub a tiny bit of speed off. Then be off the brakes as you go around this corner, off the brakes, off the brakes, off the brakes, and once you're giving yourself a straight line towards the corner, you can then brake for the corner. And because you've scrubbed a little bit of speed off already, you now don't have to brake anywhere near as hard for this corner. So now this corner, you can start working at taking a little bit faster around it rather than having to fucking slow down and avoid the walls going around it. Okay, just by applying that tiny little bit of brake before the corner, lifting off the brake around the corner, and then reapplying the brake after the corner. Anyone that's come round that right-hander and when they're on the brakes has been ending up spinning into the wall on the right here, the reason is more than likely because you're on the brakes around the corner. Okay, and the car can't handle it, so as you're on the brakes, the car slides, the front end grips, and in the wall you go. Okay, so now that we can get the car slowed down comfortably for this corner, it actually is quite a fast corner. Now before the Falcon sign, or just as the Falcon sign on the left hand side of the track goes out of the screen, we can start turning in, and you don't have to turn very tightly for this corner. You just need to apex it at the end of the big bit of wall that has just gone out of the screen. So that bit of wall. So you want to be apexing the corner just after that big bit of wall, and now it opens up the opens up the exit of the corner without too much of a risk of hitting the wall on the right. But how you take this corner is dictated by how you go through the mountain section and those fast left-handers before the mountain section. Okay, so work on it all as one section. If you get the first bit wrong, it's going to make the next bit tough and the next bit tougher. If you get the first bit right, the next bit's easier to get right, and then the next bit's easier to get right. Something to think about. Okay, now we're on to the long straight. Oh, I will mention as well, actually, the fast left-handers at the top of the hill, people are going to find themselves in a position to attempt an overtake there. It's risky, but it can be done. The downhill section, you don't want to be going too wide down there unless it is unavoidable, because chances are one of you is going to end up in the barrier. It is just that nature. Also, if you are side by side down that mountain section, anyone that is on their own behind you or has a number of cars behind you in a line, they're going to come through those corners considerably faster than you two, and they're going to punch you into New Zealand. Okay, so think twice about overtaking on the downhill section, because the last thing you want to end up doing is facing the wrong direction there. Okay, dead easy, flat out, straightish bit here, and then we head to the highest speed corner on the track. Now, this is a corner that I can imagine a number of people do struggle with in all types of cars. But again, there's a simple rhythm for this corner, and you can use it in pretty much every car. If you go on the process that I am about to tell you for this corner, in every single car, it'll work. And you'll find the better the car, the little bit later you can brake. But you should never be going off. And that's the key. You don't go faster if you're off. As the sign says, Speeding, you're in our sights. That was surprisingly well timed, actually. Okay, so, yeah. Do this, especially if you're struggling here. On approach to this corner, if you can, be on the left-hand side of the track, and the extra bit of tarmac that is approaching, use it. It can be very, very handy to use this extra bit of tarmac. Now, where this service road is, this may be a touch too soon, but around about where this service road is around about where I would start turning for this corner. And it may sound a bit backwards, considering that a lot of corners I'll say don't turn in too soon, you make it tighter. This nature of corner is different. By turning in a little bit sooner, I can steer considerably less. Whereas if I keep going straight, I may have to turn more to make the corner. So I'm going to start turning somewhere around about this service road and turning very, very gently. Now, normally on the exit of a corner, the exit of a right-hand corner, you would want to be on the left-hand side of the circuit. Not here. You do not want to be on the left-hand side of the circuit on the exit of this corner. The reason being, there's a left-hand corner coming up, which means you need to be on the right-hand side of the circuit. But the problem is, you've got to get slowed down from anywhere, around about 160, 170 mile an hour while on the brakes, while changing direction. It's not going to go very well for you. Okay? So we're going to slowly work our way at 170 mile an hour to the apex curb, and then try and stay over to the right hand side as much as we can. If you can exit that corner in this position, you'll be in a very good situation. This car, and pretty much any car you drive around this track, if you brake at the 200 meter marker board, you will always make this next corner. The better the car, for example, if I was in an LMP1 car, I'd go to about 150, but I probably wouldn't brake any later than that. In the Red Bull Junior, maybe can brake a little bit later than that because its brakes are better than the LMP1. But if you brake at the 200 meter marker board in any car, you will very quickly realise, yeah, I can make the corner every single time, but in this faster car, I can go that little bit further before I hit the brakes. So bear that in mind. So 200 metres, we're going to bang the brakes on. And we may creep slightly past it, but we're going to hit the brakes here, and we want to be braking in a straight line. It's the best way to brake, looking after your tyres and in complete control. It also means that if someone does get their car a little bit out of shape, there is an opportunity to let off the brakes to have a look at going for an overtake into this left-hander. Okay, so it may seem way too soon to brake for this corner, but given the speed that we're doing, fuck off, chopper, I can hear you. Yeah, the speeds that we're doing, this distance disappears very quickly. Again, for this corner, don't turn in too soon. Keep it over to the right-hand side, just beyond the 50 metre marker board. And the reason for that is we don't want to be apexing the bit of the curb that we can see in front of us. We want to be apexing the bit of curb that is just out of sight. So if we apex this bit of curb that we can see and we put our car in this position, you would have to use this curb. It is big, it is nasty, it'll unbalance you, and you're either going to spin or go straight on. Whereas if you turn in that little bit later and you go for apexing this part of the corner, it's a whole different situation. You're not bouncing over the curbs, you're going to have better grip, you're not going to run wide unless you're simply going too fast, full of confidence. But braking at the 200 metre marker board, going beyond the 50 metre marker board before you turn in, will allow you to position your car in this position, and then you can be on the power through the next right-hander rather than over here going, fuck it all, I'm going off, I'm a spinning shit, yes, oh, carnage. It's two very completely different ways of getting around the corner. This right-hander now becomes a very easy flat-out right-hand corner. Be careful of the curb on the left, especially if your car is low. And then we're into the final corner. And this corner's a tricky little bugger because it can be an overtaking place, but because it's downhill, you can't brake too late here. If you do, and you have any hint of a lockup or even any hint of ABS kicking in, it is so easy to go straight on. The way I like to take this corner is with a simple rule. At the 100 meter marker board, hit the brakes. If you hit the brakes at the 100 meter marker board, you'll get round this corner every single time. If you go beyond the 100 meter marker board, you better make sure you're in an absolutely brilliant fucking car to be able to make the corner. So, brake in a nice straight line if we can. People will attempt overtaking here. It can be done, but if they're chucking it up the inside here, don't panic. Undercut them on the exit of the corner, or get them out of position into the next corner. That's what racing is about. So we're going to keep braking in a straight line, and then just about where the grass leaves the white line on the right of me, we shall start turning in, and a little bit like the left-hander we've just gone past, we want to apex towards the end of the curb, not early or mid part of the curb. This curb is big and nasty. You don't really want to get on it, but if you have to, be cautious, you can spin. But if you can get yourself into this position, it beautifully opens up the final corner exit for a great run towards the start-finish line. Okay, so that's my description. Something else I should have mentioned actually. I'll mention it, I'm not going to show it. Practice your pit entries, guys, because the pit lane here is an evil motherfucker. Okay, so practice your pit entries. The last thing you'd want to do is be in a good position and ruin it because you don't know where the pit entry goes. Okay, right, I am now going to go and do another timed lap to try and show again what it is that I've just showed there, so that you can have another look at what I was on about. Okay, let's see how we get on. Just to let everyone, pit entry is there, but make sure you practice it. It's not a simple entry. Ooh, got a little tail happy there. The setup will need a bit of work on that one, but because I didn't touch the apex curb, I was able to go flat out once I was back on the throttle. Okay, brake at the 125. Now I am going to try taking this flat out. Understeer. I felt it as soon as I tried turning in. So as soon as I turned in, I had to get off the throttle. So by lifting earlier, you won't get that understeer, which means you'll look after the tyres a little bit more. Lift. Lift. Ooh. Right, rhythm. And if need be, apply the brakes between the corners if you need to slow it down more there, not round the corners. Dab a brake. Gone down a gear, didn't really need to, but now I can still apply the brakes afterwards. So a lot of the nuances about this track is about the timing of when you do things like apply the brakes. You can just about get away with riding the brakes all the way down the mountain section, but you're better off not going around corners with the brakes on. Ooh, too quick. I let off the brakes a little too soon there. So there we go. Hopefully those tips will be tips that will be very useful to some people. If not, oh well, this isn't for you. But if you do find this useful, feel free to check out my other videos with practice tips on some of the tracks that I've been doing. Obviously this is the tips video for the last championship race in the Toyota SFR for Dynamic GT League. The next championship, which will start I think 2 weeks on Thursday, is in a completely different car. It's in the Red Bull Junior, and now that the track list has been released for the Red Bull Junior, it means I can now take the car to the first track and have a look. And have a look at a setup, have a look at how the car handles, because although the processors would be the same in that car as compared to this at the same track, the braking points will differ massively in the Red Bull Junior, and the minimum apex speeds will differ massively. But for anyone that's never really watched my videos before, you may see that going from one car to another, there are still many processors that will stay exactly the same, like around here in that downhill mountain section. The faster left-handers before the downhill mountain section, in better cars you don't have to do the little lifts, but in a car that hasn't got as much grip, doing that tiny little lift can just give you that little extra bit of grip to take the corner considerably faster. Okay, I can see somebody has just put a message on the YouTube chat, so bear with me a second while I just check what that was. Okay, Dave the Harp asking, am I opening a lobby? Unfortunately, Dave, no I'm not, because I have got the Dynamic GT League race video to upload, and I can't do gaming while I'm uploading to YouTube. It absolutely wipes out my internet capability, so I won't be doing any I'm tempted to though. I'm tempted to go, you know what, I might do, and then just sod off doing the upload until overnight. Maybe we'll have to see. Anyway, hope this video has been of use to people. Like I said as well though, don't take the setup I've done here as the setup I'm going to use. It's just a basic one to get me around the circuit. I will share my setup if I'm happy with it once I've sorted it out. Okay, Oh yeah, one other thing as well, for anyone that has been interested in watching my Nordschleifer Drift Challenge videos, I haven't forgotten about it. I am going to continue doing that. It's just I have been busy the last few days, and unfortunately I'm busy, been busy today, and I'm potentially busy tomorrow and Monday as well. But I am hoping to try and get on and do a bit more of my Drift Challenge tomorrow, and then towards the end of next week I will be able to do more and more on it, hopefully. Anyway, thanks for watching, and make sure you check out the Dynamic GT League YouTube channel for the race videos. And yeah, have a good one, folks. I'll see you again soon.